Hey, have you ever scrolled through Instagram and you saw a post where you immediately just went like, whoa, that's a perfect caption? You probably saved it and you've probably seen a lot of those posts. And I know that you try to make your captions as remarkable as possible to have that same effect on your audience. If you're new to the content game for businesses on social media, you probably don't know how important captions are. So I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret. Captions are super important. Okay, wait, I was just kidding. Captions aren't just important, they are super duper extremely important. You know what? Let me just slow my roll for a minute. Maybe you don't want to actually just take my word for it. So what I did is I grabbed something from Shopify. They just released this new statement that I thought was pretty interesting. So it says, a strong visual on Instagram can make users slow their scroll and stay locked on your post, but a careful thought out caption can do a lot more of the heavy lifting in terms of marketing and sales. The reason is simple. Just posting a picture or a video without adding any thought-provoking or helpful captions will make it basically just fall flat. Captions provide a lot of the needed context and are an excellent way to sell in your own words. Now, another reason why you need to pay very close attention to your captions is that is the best way to build a community. And I'm going to assume that you're serious about your business, especially if you're listening to me right now. If that's the case, you need to be intentional about curating a community of people who not only love your products and services, but they really love engaging with the content that you're putting out there. Captions are that bridge that connects you to your audience. Okay, maybe it's not literally a bridge, but you get what I mean by that. Analysts have shown that posts that have captions, they're gonna get a lot more engagement than posts without a caption. So that shows you just how vital captions are to your content creation game. So think about it for a minute, or actually look back at your last post. Did you add a caption? If so, amazing, great. Keep listening though. I want to break down what a caption should actually consist of, and I'll do that in just a minute. If you didn't add a caption, you are about to be mind blown when you do your next post, implement what I'm about to teach you, and then see the results. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about the why. I know that you know this. I actually want to get into the how. Plus, at this point, I'm sure you can agree with me that you should probably learn how to write not just good captions, but great captions, right? That's what I want to talk about today. What I'm going to do, I want to teach you how to write your captions in a way that they will never fail. And yes, I mean literally never fail this time. So let's actually get into it, okay? So before we begin, let me share a really easy tip for you. Great captions, they can be broken down into 3 specific parts. The first part is the hook. The second part is the value, and the third is something called a call to action. So no matter how long or short a caption is, it can probably be broken down into these 3 parts if it's performing great. Now, of course, there are some popular accounts with great captions that don't necessarily follow this format that I'm going to teach you, but that's the point of fame. These accounts, they already have hundreds of thousands of followers, so they don't necessarily have to follow any of the rules. However, you run a business account, and I'm assuming that you're not at those large numbers, especially if you're watching this right now or listening to me right now. At this point, I'm sure that we could all agree that social media is a jungle for businesses' accounts. That's why you have to be on top of your game. To help you understand this perfectly, I want to walk you through some examples of captions. That way you can learn from something that's actually working. So let's start off with one from Jasmine Star for this example. So I'm not just going to read you a full caption. I actually want to break down her post. So you can really just pick anything that you find of hers. But actually, if you do want to follow along this one that I'm going to use for example, I'm going to put it right below so you can check it out. But in this post that I'm looking at from Jasmine Star, okay, it starts with a hook. The hook, it's usually that very first part of the caption, that very first line, and the goal is to grab attention. So if, for example, you've got a lengthy caption, you've got to make sure that very first line of the caption convinces people to read further. So in this example that I'm looking at, Jasmine starts with a really vague line saying, and bonus points if you're married. So if you're married, you're probably going to look at that sentence and think, oh, what bonus points do I deserve? Or even if you're not married yet, or maybe let's say you're engaged, or we want to be married, you may be interested in what bonus points married people would actually get. So now that Jasmine has you hooked on her content with a really vague hook, she can now proceed to the step number 2, the value. The mistake you should avoid making is allowing too many words to pass from the end of your hook to the value that you're offering. The hook will not keep your audience attention around for long. If you've got a very good hook and then you decide to fill the caption, let's say with the relevant stuff, people will lose interest and they're going to move on to something else. Now, if you are looking at this post with me, this caption quickly goes right into the point. So Jasmine, she quickly gets to the point where she tells people what it is that she wants them to know, which is basically in this post saying that working with your partner is fulfilling, which I agree. But one thing that I want to point out is how quickly she gets to the value. It's quick, it's concise, and she's not wasting anyone's time. After going through her value aspect, Jasmine then comes to the final part of the caption, which is the call to action. When most people use words such as like the call to action or your CTA, they're trying to get people to make a purchase. But you can use them in other ways. You can use them to tell people how you want them to interact with your post. Do you want them to like it? Do you want them to comment? Do you want them to share, to save? Whatever you want them to do next, you have to tell them in order for them to actually do it. The reason is simple. Merely enjoying or appreciating the value of a post doesn't necessarily make anyone want to engage with it. Seeing a good caption that helps you with something or tells you something new or clever or whatever, that doesn't automatically mean that they're going to engage with your content. While many people will engage with it, there's some people who just smile, read it, and they move on. So if you want to convert those who don't necessarily engage with you, you have to tell them exactly what you want them to do, which is your call to action. And Jasmine, she is one person who does this perfectly. So in this post that I'm looking at specifically, she asks a simple question that relates to what she shared. And if you go through the comment section, you'll actually see people answering her question and talking about what they thought about her caption. Makes perfect sense, right? Okay, so let's check out another example just to see how you can use these three elements to construct an amazing caption for your post. So I'm going to stick to Jasmine for this example too, okay? She's amazing. But what I did, I just scrolled through her page and I stopped on some random one. Now this one that I landed on, this has a completely different hook. It's not calling out that specific niche like the married people, it's actually asking a question. Now questions are great because it prompts people to take action. If someone, let's say, was just lazily reading your captions, their brain will automatically sit up once they see a question. Like in most of Jasmine's posts, this one starts off with a great hook. Afterward, she quickly goes in to add the value, and lastly, she adds a call to action to get you to do something. So now that you know the structure that a caption should take, let me give you a few tips. That way you are making sure that your captions, as the words themselves say, are perfect. Now, I probably have gone through this, but make sure that the most important information is right after the hook, okay? If you think that the information that you are offering is significant enough to be the hook, then you can also use it as the hook. Remember, if you don't capture people's attention, they will not read it, especially if it's a bit long. Now, another rule that I want you to keep in mind when writing your caption is to keep them relatively short when you can. Now, I'm going to contradict myself here for a minute. I am saying relatively short because people want information quick and to the point. But this also really depends on your audience. Some posts, they are fantastic longer. But I'm talking, let's say, like a paragraph or two longer. I'm not talking about writing so much that you actually have to continue the conversation in the comment section. So what I suggest doing is actually posting a short caption, do a bit longer one, then do an even longer one. And what I want you to do is see how it works for your audience. I say this all the time. When people start to show you online what it is that they want from you, you just need to repeat that. Plus, what happens if you are someone who's always writing long stories and you're more so just ranting on and on every time? Your audience is going to get bored. And after a while, unfortunately, they will stop paying attention to your post. So always remember that the average person doesn't have a very long attention span. So you need to pass whatever information you've got to pass, and you've got to do it quick. Now, thirdly, you've got to be very creative about your call to actions. So in the examples that we looked at, we saw Jasmine start asking questions about her post and things like that. But you don't have to necessarily follow any path. You can get super creative about the call to actions and even make them unique from one another. For example, You could ask for recommendations. You can ask people's opinions, or you can ask people's questions. And please, if you ask for questions, biggest tip, make sure you reply to them. No one likes to be ignored. Even if you don't ask for questions, try to reply to as many comments as you get. Remember, you're not on a famous account just yet with tens of millions of followers, just yet. You are at the start of your journey and you're trying to build a community. That's what social media is for. But you can only build a community by being incredibly inclusive. Some people use their call to actions to drive engagement, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use yours to drive traffic to your website, let's say. It's a call to action. You can use it to call any action that you want them to take. Well, obviously with a reasonable action anyways. But if you got a website that, let's say, just badly needs some traffic, you should get people to visit it. Send them there. If you sell handmade sweaters, you could say something like, if you like what I'm wearing, just click the link in my bio to get something that's great. Something along those lines. You aren't asking them to comment and like with that specific call to action, but you are asking them to do something beneficial for your business. So it's a win. Now, of course, it would be easier for you to add product tags to your Instagram post if you do have that option, but you can only do that if you're an improved business page. Oh, and remember hashtags. Remember hashtags always. Captions are great. They will help you build that community. But hashtags also increase your visibility by a lot. Seriously, the difference between a post with hashtags versus a post without hashtags is like the difference between MySpace and Facebook, which, to say the difference, is gigantic. And you don't want to be stuck on MySpace anymore. If you also want to increase your reach further, you can actually mention other Instagram pages in your captions. So if you got a business, let's say that you collaborate with, your captions may be the best way to actually give them a shout out. This is also going to be able to help you with engagement because what Instagram is going to do, it's going to use that information to connect your content with different profiles and it can, again, show it to more people that may be interested in your content just because they were interested in the tag content. Did I lose you there? I hope not. But lastly, I want you to remember to be authentic, be relatable. There are too many inauthentic accounts out there and people on Instagram, they don't want to see that stuff. Don't be one. Trust me, it will actually mess up your whole mojo online. But as always, friends, if you learned something new today, do me a favor, like this episode. Share it with those who might need it. And finally, subscribe to my channel for more content like this and be a part of this amazing entrepreneur community that we are building here. My name is Lisa Ann, and that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I will see you next week. Bye for now.